You ever eat Indian food and it
Hmm.
kind of settles for like 3 days and then you're like, oh, it's coming back.
It's dense.
Yeah, like it's coming back. It's coming back.
By the way, Indian food, the one thing we can't get here. I'm sure it's there somewhere.
Mm. It's delicious. I love the curry. I love spicy food, so it's right up my alley, and then it goes through my alley, which is the
Right.
problem. Um, but yeah,
Oh,
what did you
no.
do?
No, I'm okay. Never mind.
Okay.
Nothing.
Okay, good, good. Well, the good thing is, Paul, we went to New York. Not a lot happened. It was pretty relaxed.
Yeah, it was very. Yeah. It was a quick day.
Yeah, it's not like they announced a phone, a new foldable, earbuds, two new laptops, a updated tablet, and then an ARM device. Or actually, you know what they did? And I've honestly read nothing from anybody about
Hmm.
this stuff because one, I took yesterday off. My wife and I
Hmm.
went gallivanting around rainy New York, went to a
Yep.
planetarium, went to Broadway play, and had a very, very nice dinner. Very nice dinner.
Thanks. Okay. Good.
And so, we'll kick the show off with this thing.
Hmm.
This So, Paul, I got a lot of apprehension, I think is the word. Now, I don't want this to come across as me just like poo-pooing on Microsoft being adventurous, which I very much applaud them sticking their neck back out on the line after they wrote off some very serious amount of money and fired a
Yeah.
bunch of
Yeah. Yeah.
people. And I commend them for wanting to get back into this and for going with Google, um, because that is the right thing. Here's my 50-cent take on this because we have a year before this thing ships,
I
right?
know. That's
They
that's a problem.
Well, that is a problem because now everybody knows what they're doing, or at least it'll look something like this. It's obviously going to get refined, and they'll do
Hmm.
things to probably make
Yeah.
it better. But here's a couple concerns, if you will.
Hmm.
Concerns. One, this is not some fancy dancy brand new device. There are dual screen Android devices like this out on the market today that fold. This is not some sort of Microsoft exclusive. Now, they might be
Right.
able to make a better, more premium version of it. Very well could so. They might have better marketing. I'm not going to disagree with that. And they might be able to get the OS to work better. We don't know yet because it's too early on. But one, that those devices already exist.
Yeah.
My second concern here, because I'm looking at this from like when I would review this, like, hey, can this replace my iPhone? Can this replace my Galaxy Note 10? Right now, we have Apple, Samsung, and Google gunning it out for the best camera on the market. Like these guys are kicking out really high quality cameras in really small packages. Is Microsoft going to be able to compete in any capacity in that generational war? Because that's the most popular camera, as we all know, is the one you have with you. And if it's on this device and it's crap, it's going to be a
Right.
problem for the hardware. And so,
It's kind of worse than that because there is this, built-in legacy. I don't want legacy is the wrong word. Just built-in kind of fan base of people who really liked Windows Phone, specifically really liked Lumia hardware. Um, Microsoft never really shipped their own phone with an excellent camera, to be honest. I mean, the 950 was okay. It was okay. It was okay. I think that's
Yeah.
how I'd say it. Um, that stuff all was at Nokia, right? So the 1020, obviously, the 1520, and I'd say the 930 slash Icon were all amazing cameras for the day. And, maybe even for today, who knows?
yeah.
I think that's the minimum bar for this to be accepted by that user base. Now, I don't know how big that user base is or that fan base.
Right.
I think the thing that gets everything you just said, I agree with 100%. I have the same concerns. The camera maybe is job one. There's an interesting new baseline that's occurring though in cameras, right? And so obviously there's the upper echelon, the Pixels, the Huawei's, maybe the new iPhones. I think they're getting in there. And then there's like the next step down, Samsung, and OnePlus, and probably others. Those are the ones I've tested. And honestly, even for myself, where I really care about the camera,
Yeah.
if I had a Samsung or one of the newer, very specifically the OnePlus 7T, out in the world, and that was it, that was my only choice, I would be okay with it. Like it would
Yeah.
be fine.
Yeah.
And so I think it needs to reach that level. I don't think it's fair to expect them to get up into the A tier
Yeah.
with V1. To your point, to your first point, though, I'll say, you said there are already these devices in market, and there's more coming. Obviously, certainly there will be more before next holiday. There are some already in market that exceed this from a hardware form factor innovation perspective, meaning that like the Samsung Galaxy Fold is literally a single screen that folds. It's not two screens with a hard line down the middle. So it's going to enter a crowded market. It's going to enter a market where there are other devices that are technologically superior.
Yep.
So the thing they have to do with this phone, just put very simply, is to do the opposite of what they did with the Windows Phone. Because at the time that Windows Phone 7 series, as it was called at the time, launched, they were going after Apple. They were going after the consumer market. And what they did was they forsaked their core business market, which is 2/3 to 3/4 of their revenues. This thing needs to target that market strongly. It needs to target that market maybe even exclusively at first. This needs to be an enterprise device. This needs to be a device. The reason, well, we haven't talked about Neo yet. I guess we'll get to that. But with Microsoft having two folding devices, I actually think the phone device, that one, the Duo, makes more sense because it does have the possibility of replacing a device.
Yeah.
The PC one, the Neo, is just another version of the same kind. Like we've invented a new form factor. It's still a PC.
Yep.
So if a customer walks into a Microsoft store and they buy a Dell laptop or they buy a Surface Pro, they're not adding a device.
Yeah.
They're replacing you know what I mean? It's the same market. And I think that folding Neo is essentially the same market, even though it's kind of cool because it folds and, you know, whatever. This thing has the potential to do, it's like what phablets did, right? It's now I don't have to carry an e-reader. Now I don't have to carry a small tablet to read on or play games or watch movies or whatever. I have this one device that can do everything. I think it has that potential.
Yeah.
But again, to you really hit on all the high points. I mean, what Microsoft does with the software, and is very important. And we should tell people too that this is a Google Play device. It's going to have the Play Store. It's going to have Google Apps. It's not the AOSP thing. It's the full Google experience. Microsoft isn't making their own store. They're not doing any of that stupid stuff. I think there's an apps platform story, apps platform story possibly that needs to be told. How Microsoft is going to handle not just apps that are created specifically for Neo and Windows and Windows 10 X, but is there an app story for these kinds of things beyond what Google's already doing with folding and dual screen devices? Is there a Microsoft API coming that will let you write an app that runs on both platforms? You know, that kind of thing, and beyond Xamarin or whatever, specifically for this. So we'll see. I mean, we have a year. There's going to be plenty of time for them to drop information over time. Specific specs. We don't know. People are always at, what's the processor? What's the camera? It's
probably
what? The thing they showed us is probably nonsense and nothing like the final version. So we have a year.
The one other concern, if you will, is you pull this thing out of your pocket. You can't use it. You have to open it. So if you've got a phone call, you can't. Right now you pull it out. You're like, oh, Paul's calling me. Ignore or whatever. That thing you got to pull it out.
You actually have to open it.
There's no external display. So
this might be why, Microsoft reacted very negatively to people calling this thing a phone, which is interesting. If you go back, and I haven't watched it again, but if you watch the presentation, you know that this segment opened with the sound of a ringtone, right? And I think did she actually pick it up and answer?
Yeah, she did.
I don't know. So, I think what they need on the outside of this device is something you get with Samsung through a case where you can see stuff on that kind of see-through case. They almost need like actually they tried to do this during Longhorn, the notion of an external display on the back of a laptop lid that would give you notifications and things. You need something on the outside that has some action that can do what you're saying, but also other things. I'm listening to music and I want to play the next song. How do I do that without opening the thing? I know you can do it with headphones and stuff, but I mean, if maybe some way on the device. So we'll see.
And then of course there is, which I don't have up here, Neo, which I actually think Neo is the more interesting device personally, only because of Windows 10X. And I think it's the first look we get at Microsoft's Windows modularization that they've been trying so hard for many years. And so that is the beginning, what I think, of the future of the Windows platform.
I agree with you completely. So we can kind of, Mary Jo and I did this on Windows Weekly. We kind of debated the semantics of it. From my point of view, Windows 10X is something that today is aimed at these things. Tomorrow will be aimed at more device types, including normal laptops. She thinks they're going to do another split and it'll be like a Windows 10 and something else, and that will be that thing. I don't think that makes any sense. This system they've created that they're working on for multitasking across two screens, et cetera, is a system that can work fine on a normal computer display, except you just do it through software. You're side by side. It's fine. I think that needs to come. I like the containerization stuff, which they didn't talk about at all, is an important thing for the future of Windows, as you know. We've talked about that. And the fact that this system can now run on a much lighter hardware. It's a little weird, by the way, that the first version is Intel. They were very specific about that. I have a feeling Intel campaigned to get that account, because arguably a Neo-type device would make much more sense on ARM, just from a portability, battery life, et cetera, heat, lack of fans, et cetera. So, we'll see what happens there. I'm very, very interested in the app story.
Yes.
And by that, what I really mean is the SDK, the software development experience. And so based on the conversations you and I had with some folks from Microsoft afterwards, we got different answers from different people, but we should be hearing something about that in the next couple of weeks, at least the beginnings of it. I suspect, given Microsoft's new approach to software development for Windows, that what we will see is new versions of the SDK that add these things specifically for Windows 10X.
Yep.
Not a new thing. They're not going to come up with yet another way to create apps. Like I think whatever the supported frameworks are today, which basically amounts to .NET Core and then the the visual frameworks on top, WPF, WinForms, UWP, Web, possibly as well, right? PWA, whatever. I think that's what it's going to be. I think it's going to start at the very low level, Win32, like everything does, really, because there are new SDK releases basically every week. And they'll start tacking on stuff. So I'm very interested in the device itself. Like I don't buy, and you heard them do this too, because I said, look, I mean, that's just Snap again. And we already have multi-window support in apps. And they're like, no, this is different. Like, no, it really isn't.
Yeah.
You're just adapting it to this new, dual screen situation. Snap works across monitors. I think you use multi-monitors, don't you?
So on this machine, I do. On this machine.
Okay, but you can Windows key whatever and maximize, go right to the next screen, maximize, go right. Like it chains across screens. This is exactly how this works. I mean, not 100%, but obviously it's based on that. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, towards the end of the little not keynote, but like play toy land area, whatever you want to call it, showcase floor. I was talking with Chris Kapp, and he was just asking me my opinion about it. And I said, here's the thing with Neo. Here's the question you have to answer. He says, most people are going to have a desktop. That's not going to go away. Most people are either going to have a laptop or a tablet or Neo. It's like one of these three.
Well, that's my point. It's not replacing something.
Well, that's my question. I was like, Chris, how does this device fit in so that it is either better than a laptop or better than a tablet? Like, where does it fit into the market? And you guys really have to demonstrate that functionality.
Did he answer that? Did he actually provide you a way?
No. He said that's good feedback, and he goes, I said that's the marketing approach, because if you can't tell me in a single sentence why this is better than a laptop, then I'm going to buy a laptop.
Right. Well, right. I by the way, I agree with that 100%. I am still. I don't care how better this is at anything. I'm still getting a laptop, because the thing I need is a laptop. I'm a writer. I need a full-size keyboard, big screen. This stupid folding thing is not for me. There is perhaps a small bump that you get from the fact that the PC market is on a very slow upgrade cycle right now. Most people don't see a reason. Microsoft's very proud of creating new form factors. They actually haven't done it that much, but they're taking credit for the 2-in-1 for some reason. I will say that the Surface Pro certainly formalized that design and made it a thing, but they didn't invent it, but whatever, it's fine. Surface Studio, they're like, they didn't invent an all-in-one either, but you can pull it forward, you can touch it, and so okay. They made a point of saying this is the next form factor. They love being able to create form factors, and the little bump you get is, if all we had was like a laptop to choose from, I think most people are like, screw it, I don't care. Like, yeah, it's a little faster, it's got a little different port maybe. I don't really care about that stuff, but it's like, what about a dual screen device? Like, there might be some people like, oh, actually, okay, I wasn't thinking about upgrading, but now that there's this cool new thing, maybe.
Yep.
So, I don't know.
Again, I applaud Microsoft for trying to push boundaries and create new things. I think that's
Yeah,
very
I do too.
important
Yeah.
and very important for them to do. They're doing it in a very public way, and I'm very happy to see them do this. I think everyone's going to be watching very closely about how they evolve the narrative of these devices over the next coming year, the software development strategy. But if nothing else, this gives Windows a new trajectory about where and how it's moving forward, regardless if it's on that
Yeah.
device. But we
And
at least know
yes,
what Windows is headed towards.
that's right. And a lot of the complaints that I and others have had about Windows 10 over the past, 2, 3, 4 years, whatever, uh, evolve around this notion that they've got this legacy operating system. They're adding stupid things to it. Like, why are you doing this? And some of it may have been a little bit of a setup for this more mobile, whatever, different future. Who knows? But with this device, they can get distracted now targeting what is essentially a new platform, at least a new form factor,
Yeah.
and that can be the new stuff. And so, who knows what's going to happen with 20H1? Mary Jo, I think it was, said that she was told that we've actually seen most of it. There isn't really much going on there. And my take on that, regardless of whether that's true or not, is that I think a big part of the 20H1 thing, where we started testing it early this year and we'll test it, for a year, has to do with the fact that the underpinnings for this 10X thing are in that.
Yeah.
And that they have to make this shift to the core of the product, and that's what's taking so much time. We won't see the fruits of it until 20H2, right? Because obviously 10X will be based. Well, the very first version will be 20H2. It's not going to be 20H1.
Yep.
So that's fine, and what that means for you and me and for the billion other people that are using Windows 10, almost, 900 million, whatever, is we don't have a lot of churn coming, right?
Yeah.
There's not going to be a lot of new stupid things blocking the view and the start menu and whatever. It's like now we can focus on this new thing, and I think we're going to see some of that stuff in Windows, right? Like normal Windows 10. Like, it would be kind of interesting if this new start experience they have, the new task switching or evolved task switching experience. I mean, that should all come to Windows.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens there. Who knows?
Yep. And then there were two other brand new things: the earbuds, which are
I don't. You know what?
interesting.
Back in January, I was like, these guys, they released these like giant can headphones. I feel like there's some market for that, but there's obviously a much bigger market for earbuds. And I suggested, and of course now you knew that they were working on these things. I have zero interest in this product. It's the one. No, it's not the only thing, but it's the thing I'm most ambivalent about. I mean, I do think they should pad out if they're going to get into audio. They can't just have these. They got to have the earbud thing. And so there you go. $250 though. I mean, like,
yeah. So here's I have a post that I'll do on Petri on Monday. So
Okay.
they talked about these things kind of in two weird ways, right? One, they're an audio peripheral. That's what it was. It's like, here's our earbuds. They do music, and that's great. And then they said they're $250. And then they also said, hey, look, it also does PowerPoint integration, voice translation, and real-time captioning. Those three things are not really applicable to the person who's looking to buy earbuds, right? So if you're looking to buy music stuff, you're going to buy AirPods or whatever Samsung has or Bose has because they're cheaper and they do what you want. So the question is, which market is Microsoft going after? Are they actually going to try to pitch these as a productivity earbud, which maybe that justifies the price point, but then you're alienating all the people who are just looking for music.
Right.
So it's like, I'm curious to see what the marketing is for this one.
These are products that should be released simultaneously in Xbox versions, different colors,
Yeah.
and lower prices too. They're too expensive. But I feel like that little gesture thing for PowerPoint that they were talking about is this device's version of Alcantara on the laptop. It's like everyone else is doing this kind of thing. How do we differentiate? And what they come up with is frankly not necessarily that good of an idea. I don't need yet another way to advance a PowerPoint slide. Is this seriously a problem? You can get mobile apps to do this. You can get dedicated pointer little hardware things that work over USB or Bluetooth probably now. You can press the space bar on your keyboard or whatever the arrow. I mean, are you serious? Like,
Yeah, to go.
I'm sorry. You talk about like that awful. And I think it came up during the presentation. I don't remember the context, but you and I are having a conversation across the dinner table, and I'm doing this thing on my watch, and I look like a jerk because I'm obviously not paying attention to you. When someone does that, it's a little that's distracting.
Yeah, it's like you swatting a fly or changing the slot. Like,
yeah, you got something in your ear. What are you doing there?
So this will be. I mean, I wish them the best. That's more of an odd one. Like, I like the idea of Surface branded earbuds, but that's not what I had in mind.
Yep. No. They're $100 too expensive.
Well, and they look weird. Like that's
they do. Well,
they look like
that's something we may get used to. I mean, AirPods, whatever they're called, to me still look a little weird. Like I still want to smack people wearing AirPods. You know, there's something about them. But you see a lot of wireless earpod type things. What's the term I'm looking for? Are they called earpods? No, earbuds. Yeah. I mean, and I wear earbuds to the gym. I mean, I see them everywhere. I see all kinds of things. You see people with the big can things on at the gym too. I mean, I guess it's something for everybody.
Yeah. The one thing I wish they kind of would have brought over is because they kind of look like a dial. Remember the dials on the big ones? That would have been nice for sound isolation, but
yeah. Well, do you have some of the new generation Sonos speakers with the touch controls on the top? All right. So I thought I should look this up, and I haven't done this yet. But if you think about how that works, you can hit either side of it to do volume up, volume down, and you can hit the middle to do play pause. But if there's a way to, do you know if there's a way to advance this to the next song or go back to the beginning?
There's a gesture. I think you like slide your finger across, it'll do.
Yeah. So I don't know what that gesture is. This is something I actually need to use sometimes. And I feel like, like on a little thing like that, you run out of space to do multiple gestures. The top of that speaker thing is like this big, So now you're talking about things that's the size of a silver dollar maybe, or quarter or whatever, however big it is. I mean, how much stuff are you going to jam on there?
Potentially a lot if you got the good tunes flowing. See what I did there?
Were we were choking behind in the showcase about how the earbuds were designed by the guys that did the material from the Microsoft band, and people who wear them are going to get like this red rash on their ears.
They're called the Spocks.
Yeah,
Spock
exactly.
syndrome.
Do you have ear cancer? What's going on there?
Oh my god. And then obviously the other devices are all pretty much right in line. I'm fascinated by the Surface Pro X, which doesn't run Windows 10 X. Still fascinates me that they did this. Like they look at this and said, we're going to launch Windows 10 X and Surface Pro X.
I'm a little bothered by the fact that they don't have an X64 story, that they launched this thing. It's a little strange. And, to cart out Adobe and show off yet another mobile app, essentially, instead of the app everyone wants, right? The apps, everyone wants the CC apps, whether it's Photoshop, Illustrator, Acrobat, whatever.
Well, to be fair, though, I wouldn't run any of those on that X. I mean, it's not going to
I don't know. I mean, honestly, the performance of x86 apps, anyway, is supposed to be fantastic. So if those could somehow be ported to ARM, that's, I think, what we need to get over this hump. I mean, it's kind of a problem. It's a beautiful device. I would love to see an Intel version of it,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very thin and light. You put it side by side with the Pro. The Pro looks like old fashioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the thing you'd see at a museum.
Is good. Yeah, right. Exactly. It should be next to the original Mac. The device I'm most personally interested in is actually the laptop, and specifically the 15-inch version. And I know it's just a laptop, but I really feel, and this, I mean, between the laptop and Surface Book, and to a lesser extent too, even the Pro with the type cover, typing experience is perfect. The trackpad is fantastic. Screen,
which by the way, I love that their sizzle videos, as they call them, started off with like the keyboard switches, like flying in, like, hey, look, ours work.
Would you say they're butterflying in? Oh no, they're actually work. And they're right about the key travel. It's 1.3 millimeters across the board. It's perfect. It's really interesting because if you care about keyboards at all and follow this, that we used to think perfect was 1.5, 1.6. The interesting side effect of Apple using these almost motionless keys is that there is some benefit to less travel. It's kind of like if you're driving a car and you have a stick shift. Like if you have a Porsche or something, or a performance car, the throw of the stick is shorter.
Sure.
And there's an advantage to that. Obviously, at some point it gets stupid. It's basically an automatic. But I feel like 1.3 is kind of the new sweet spot for that stuff, and that's something you look for across the board in premium PCs. Like the HPs are right there. I think Lenovo's getting there. I think they're probably 1.4 at this point or something. But
Yep.
this keyboard experience is perfect. Like it's really, really good.
And then sticking with that Surface Connect, although it does not have fast charge, which is good, but it's still a half
That's
step
cool,
towards...
isn't it? So for all the complaining I've done about Surface Connect, right? To be honest, it meets the needs of like 90-something% of people that use this stuff, right? It's nice that we still have a magnetic solution. Apple gave up on theirs a long time ago with USB-C.
Yeah.
So you get that thing where the cable gets kicked out, but the computer doesn't go flying to the floor. So that's cool. But they were able to implement fast charging in a completely backwards compatible way.
Yeah.
By putting it in the devices, which means that you can use all of your old stuff and it will still fast charge. Like I've never heard of anyone doing anything like that. That's kind of an innovation that needs to be called out. Like that's actually really impressive. So if you have like a Surface Pro 3 or 4 or whatever, and you're docking it and using it and whatever with all your peripherals and stuff, you literally pull the thing out, you put the new one in, plug it in, you get fast charging. In addition to...
I didn't even know it did that. That's
the fast charging's built right into the device. Completely backwards compatible. So if you have like the Surface Dock or an existing charger, you'll still get fast charging.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, that's neat. I mean, it's just, and here I am, like, like I said, I complain a lot about stuff, and then you guys are so far behind, you're not paying attention, blah, 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 and then it's like, oh, that's freaking genius. Like, that's awesome. Yeah. Like fast charging on a phone requires something in the charger.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the new one. So the new Apple device, the new phone comes with like a larger charger. That thing gets hot. Like it's like, if you touch it, it's like, it's hot. OnePlus uses something proprietary. They have a large charger as well, but theirs does not get hot and it's super fast. It's really nice. But again, you have to have not just the phone, but a special cable and a special charger. That Microsoft was able to do this right in the device. Awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's good. It was a good event. I think it was.
It was.
It was a good event.
I spent a lot of time on Twitter during it ragging on the fans in the audience because they were idiots and applauded at nothing, and I found it very distracting. In fact, there were literal moments in the presentation, you can go see it for yourself, where it kind of stops the flow, to use the term they were using, of the event, which I thought was bad. This is bad. And speaking with certain people at Microsoft afterwards, they agreed it was a problem. I don't think they're going to get rid of the fans. I think they'll probably do it again. But I think next time maybe there'll be some instructions like, why don't you pick and choose? Here's a list of things you might want to clap for that are actually important, not the...
So here's some inside
stuff.
baseball on this. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, at least not on the air. If you ever get the chance to be a Windows insider at these events, do it. You don't get paid in cash, but you definitely get some really high-end hardware out of it, like really high-end hardware. And
it's ethically challenged.
It is. There's no cash, but you can pick from a variety of devices, and then they'll just give it to you, just to go there and clap.
Yeah, they're paying for your support.
No, they're not paying.
Enjoy that.
They're incentivizing it with magnesium.
I don't know. Speaking of inside baseball, I don't know if this is bad form to mention this, but I was told by somebody, and I think you might have been there when this happened, that part of the reason they did this is because Panos likes to interact with people when he talks, and when there's just reporters and bloggers and things in the audience, they're all sitting there on their laptops typing away, not
working,
engaged, and so he kind of needs that kind of thing. And my private response to that, which I guess I will now make public, is if someone needs that kind of interaction during a presentation, they're not necessarily a great presenter. What are you talking? He should be able to go into an empty room and go to town. The other thing is, like, these things are videotaped and streamed live. I mean, just play to the camera.
Yeah.
I thought he did a good job last year, for example, when he came out. He happened to grab my laptop, but that has nothing to do with it. He does, you've seen him many times. I mean, he likes to go into the audience and kind of interact with them in some way. And so nothing will prevent someone from typing and not paying attention more than taking their laptop away from them. I thought that was rather effective. So, I mean, there's ways around it, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't care about this. Don't get me wrong. This is not sour grapes. Where I sit in the room doesn't matter to me. I don't care if those people are in front. But I found it to be very disrespectful that they were so disruptive. And I just, one of the things I like about the Microsoft events is that they're not Apple rallies.
Yeah.
And I felt like it devolved into something even potentially worse than the typical Apple event, you know?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that. So, all right, folks. I think that wraps it up for our Surface event Hangover edition. I am extremely tired. I pretty much got off the plane, got the podcast booth set up, and then started to rock and roll. So,
yeah. We drove back from Ben Salem, I think it's called. It's an hour and 10 minutes from here. We stopped by IKEA. We had to go back roads to get home. There was like construction, and got home like an hour later. But you sit in the car like, oh, come on. I just want to go home. So,
yep.
Yeah.
And so we are home, folks. And that wraps it up. Next week should be back to normal ish, I think. And we'll catch all of you right back here next time.